Hello, this is Tony Heller from RealClimateScience.com, setting the record straight about climate. This video is titled, Snow Doesn't Lie, but Climate Scientists Do. In this video, I'm going to cover the spectacular disconnect between what scientists are saying about snow and what's actually happening in the real world. California is having their third snowiest year on record, and all three of their snowiest years have occurred since the year 2010. They will be skiing in California well into August. California ski areas have had more than 700 inches of snow. But it hasn't always been like this in California. They held the 1960 Winter Olympics at Squaw Valley, California, and they barely had enough snow in February 1960 to hold the Olympics. Compare that to this year when they'll be skiing in August. February 9th, 1960, change to snow saves California Olympic site. Rain turned to snow just in time to avert possible disaster at the Winter Olympic Games. New England's three northern states today extended open invitations to operators of the Winter Olympics who fear ski slopes at Squaw Valley, California will be ruined by heavy rains. So in 1960 it was raining in the California mountains in February, and this year it's snowing at the end of May. That doesn't really sound too much like catastrophic warming to me. And it's not just California. Snowpack in the upper Colorado River Basin has been above normal 5 of the last 7 years, and right now it's 350% of normal. There's going to be a huge amount of water flowing into Lake Powell and Lake Mead this summer. This was the view at the ski area at Flagstaff, Arizona last week. First time they've ever had skiing in May. Same story in New Mexico. This was the view at Taos Ski Valley, New Mexico last week. This looks more like midwinter than Memorial Day. The Pecos River Basin in New Mexico, where I used to work as a wilderness ranger, has 2,480% of normal snowpack. Same story at Glacier National Park in Montana, where experts have been predicting the demise of the glaciers every 20 years for the last 100 years. In 1923, scientists predicted the glaciers in Glacier National Park would be gone in 25 years. That didn't happen, so in 1952, scientists predicted the glaciers would be gone in 50 years. That didn't happen either, so in 2009, scientists predicted the glaciers would be gone by 2020. There's a lot of snow and ice up there in Montana, and they're having record colds. The scientists better get their blowtorches out. So now they've pushed the date out to 2044, almost 100 years after their first ice-free forecast. Originally, scientists predicted the glaciers would be gone by the year 1948. But never mind reality. Scientists keep making the same ridiculous predictions over and over again. June 2001, Los Angeles Times. Less snowfall could spell big problems for California. New scientific research suggests that global warming, even by what experts consider conservative estimates, will severely shrink the Sierra snowpack. In 2006, one of our leading climate fraudsters, Katharine Hayhoe of Texas Tech University, who also heads up a lot of activity in the National Climate Assessment, predicted 70 to 90% reduction in snow in the Sierra Nevadas. Then again in 2008 she made the same prediction. This was 3 years before California's snowiest year on record, which is the winter of 2010-2011. The second and third snowiest winters in California history were the winters of 2016-2017 and the current winter. Katharine Hayhoe has no idea what she's talking about, which has made her very popular among Democrats. And when she isn't pimping drought in California, she's doing it back in Texas, which has been having their wettest years on record recently too. These red areas show California's long history of severe droughts, some lasting 200 years. Scientists consider all these old, very severe ones to be natural, but the little tiny recent ones to be man-made. As you can see, California was in severe drought most of the time prior to the year 1500, and generally they've been getting wetter ever since. That doesn't really sound like man-made drought to me. 3 years ago, right before California's wettest year on record, Governor Jerry Brown in the New York Times announced a permanent drought. And Governor Brown did exactly the same thing 40 years earlier in March of 1977 during the global cooling scare. Reality is that there's been no trend in California precipitation since the 19th century. This was the 1977 Jerry Brown permanent drought, and here was his 2016 permanent drought. Obviously, they weren't very permanent. And of course the press kicked in with the same nonsense. Wired magazine, May 13, 2016. Thanks El Nino, but California's drought is probably forever. That was a few months before California's wettest winter on record. And they're still at it. March 27, 2019. In Mammoth, the snow is so deep, residents must tunnel out. There's a history to that. And just 4 weeks later, the San Francisco Chronicle is reporting that California skiing is doomed. Winter in the Sierra is becoming more erratic. Climate models show warmer temperatures and less snow cover. Are ski resorts doomed? Remember that California barely had enough snow to hold the Winter Olympics in February 1960, and now they're skiing in August, and their three snowiest winters on record have all occurred in the past decade. The disconnect between climate science and reality is as wide as the Grand Canyon. And it's not just California and the United States. Across the entire northern hemisphere, fall and winter snow cover has been increasing rapidly. Almost all of the snowiest winters on record in the northern hemisphere have been occurring since the year 2000. This is due to cold Arctic air intruding further and further south and bringing the freeze line closer to the equator. The U.S. just had the wettest winter on record, with one small dry area in the Pacific Northwest, which Governor Jay Inslee of Washington immediately blamed on global warming. What really concerns me about climate scientists like Katharine Hayhoe is not that they're wrong all the time, but it's that they're trying to influence policy. And they use phrases like, if we continue our addiction to fossil fuels. Fossil fuels are essential to the functioning of our civilization. It's like saying we're addicted to food or we're addicted to water. We can't survive without them. This sort of nonsense by incompetent climate scientists is driving a lot of the policy in the Democratic Party. One of the key things which President Trump needs to accomplish during the next 6 years is to eliminate the CO2 endangerment finding of the EPA. This is the key to getting the country back on track and ending this climate superstition and insanity. Visit Toto on the web at realclimatescience.com. He's been pulling back the curtain on junk science for a long time.